Welcome. Today we will be interviewing Michelle Burt, who is one of 3 candidates for the Pembroke Select Board. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're going to jump right into the questions. All right. The proposed budget to be voted on at the town meeting may be adjusted due to state aid, which has yet to be finalized. That aid may include a per pupil increase of up to $75 per head. Knowing that nothing is finalized, how do you frame your budgetary priorities?
Well, we can't really rely on that because it's not going to be finalized until September. So we really don't know what we're getting from the state. So we have to go with the number that we have for town meeting, which I believe it's $26 a pupil. So we got to stick with that for now because it's no guarantee what we're going to get.
What about other funding that you might get for the states, for roads, for infrastructure? Same deal?
We have to stick with the numbers that we have because we're going to town meeting in May, and you can't hope for something, and then if we don't get it and it backfires, we'll be upside down. So for now, we got to stick with what we have until the fall.
Now, what are some of the budgetary items that you think will be heavily discussed at town meeting?
Water, we're going to spend $8 million this year, hopefully, if it passes town meeting. Updating our infrastructure for water, that's a big ticket item. And I think the overall school budget has been controversial because enrollment is down. But I would say probably one of the biggest challenges is that they've had to cut back this year in each department. And I know that puts a strain on all the departments. Just as an example, the police chief had mentioned that back in the 90s, they had 36 patrolmen on the force, and now they're down to like 29 or 30. So the town has grown threefold since the 90s, and yet he's operating at the same level of staffing that he did in the 90s. So that's concerning. You know, it's always a balancing act.
And what do you think, if you had a golden rule to use for priorities on this is what I'm going to support on budgeting, how do you make that call? What do you do to determine what is most important to the town when it comes to budgeting?
School, police, and fire.
Okay.
I think when you call 911, God forbid you're in your kitchen choking on a chicken bone, you want to know that they're going to be in your house in under 5 minutes. And even 5 minutes is too long. The only reason why I know it's 5 minutes is because I live on probably the farthest point from the fire station. And Chief Neenan once told me, in the middle of the night, if you're choking on a chicken bone, I can be in your kitchen in 6 minutes. So I think that's important to the residents. Police, fire, DPW, so that the roads are plowed when we have storms, and school. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for selectman. I want to be a citizen's voice of what the citizens' needs are and what the citizens want.
Now, you said the school enrollment is going down. How do you sell that to taxpayers that their budget is increasing but their enrollment is going down? Well,
unfortunately, salaries are going up. And now we're in a pickle with the whole situation with a VOTEC. So, I mean, do we spend, I think the item was $25 million to belong to social VOTEC, or do we spend $25 million on upgrading our school system so that we can have our own VOTEC program? But I think VOTEC is a big item for the residents. I know Silver Lake has a program, and the Pembroke kids can go to Silver Lake, but unfortunately, the state opened it up to people from the city of Boston. Their kids can go to Silver Lake, not just the surrounding town. So it's really hard for kids to get in a VOTEC program when they don't want to go to college. And now plumbers and electricians make more money than kids that go to school and they're working in with a college degree. So some kids are just hands-on, and yeah, I'm all for the VOTEC program.
Okay, so that's something that's going to have to be addressed down the road.
That's later on down the road, and will probably require an override. But yeah, that's a story for another day.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. Expansion of housing and the commercial development would obviously affect the tax base. What is your vision for both industrial and housing expansion?
So I think the over 55 model is great for Pembroke, especially that new complex that's going in over by the golf course. I think it's 172 units. The golf course is going to stay, so they're going to be sprinkled around the golf course, and they're going to plow their own roads. So over 55, they're not draining our school services. I mean, because it's an older demographic, it might be a drain on fire, paramedic calls. Yep. But we won't have that per pupil drain on the school system. So over 55 is a great way to get houses on the tax roll that don't drain as much from our resources. And commercial, I mean, we just need to do a better job with that.
How do you attract businesses? And what about the commercial zoning within the town?
So we can put a hotel over by the highway, over by that area, Corporate Park, Christmas tree shops. And now that the hotel in Rockland has been closed for housing, and the old Howard Johnson's hotel, is it called Baymont now, I think, behind Cancun, has been closed. If you're someone that's coming down from the city of Boston to go to Cape Cod and you want to stop and spend the night, or even you're coming from Maine, you used to be able to get off the highway on Route 3 and spend the night at a hotel, and now you don't have any options. So I would love to get a hotel into Pembroke, like it'd be nice to have like a Marriott Courtyard or something, right off the highway, and do a hotel tax, just like the meals tax, so we can generate some income off of that. The meals tax this year is projected to bring in $460,000.
Right, so the restaurants are definitely helping.
The restaurants are helping,
yeah.
And when you're on and off the highway running through a Taco Bell, you don't notice that little extra on your meal ticket when you have to pay the Pembroke tax. And honestly, I don't mind it. If I go out to dinner and my bill's $100, yeah, I have to pay the $3 to the town of Pembroke for the meals tax, but I'm kind of proud to pay it. I feel good. I know it's going towards something that benefits our community, so I don't mind it at all.
Okay, let me just circle back to you said the over 55 housing was great. Do you think it's affordable?
Well, they have to do 25% affordable housing somehow, in some manner.
In that complex?
It doesn't have to be in that complex. So for that particular builder, the planning board worked with him, and they allowed him to buy Shepherd's Funeral Home, and he's going to put apartment buildings out behind Shepherd's Funeral Home. So that will be his contribution for affordable housing. So it doesn't always have to be on the same property.
Okay, interesting. And do you have a vision for percentage of commercial versus people paying taxes in the end? Like what percentage of our tax base should be commercial and what percentage should be personal?
I don't have a percentage in my head. I mean, I don't want Pembroke to look like Quincy. I feel like people move here because they like a small rural town. And yeah, it's nice that we have most of our commercial up by 139. And I like that. I think it's nice when you come through the center of town and it looks like an old New England town with the church and all the greenery that we have. I worked on that Pembroke Community Center project, and that was one of the things that we wanted to do was keep the aesthetic of the town. So we put the parking lot out back and to the side. So, originally the architect had the parking lot in the front of the building. I was like, no. Put the parking lot in back, because you drive through a lot of towns, you drive through the center, you see a lot of blacktop, but Pembroke's unique. You drive through and there's a lot of greenery. The green on the town lawn, you get the cemetery, now you get that big greenery in front of the community center, so.
And let me just ask you one more thing about housing, and it's affordable housing for people starting out that aren't apartments. What is there any talk at all about helping that group of individuals?
So, yes, there's an article on the warrant for a housing trust, so that when a developer comes in, and does a project and has to contribute towards affordable housing, instead of the developer saying, okay, I'll sell X amount of houses, cheap, So the $1 million house might only be, 750,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But instead, he can contribute those funds. He can make a donation to the Housing Fund Trust, which I'm sure it still has to go through all the legal, ramifications with the attorneys and what have you. But then the town can decide how they're going to use that to create affordable housing. So there'll be a set committee for the trustees of the Housing Trust, and that's a great way to create some affordable housing for the demographic that needs it, which is that younger generation. 5% down on a $500,000 house is a lot of money.
It is, yeah. So would this be like a land bank?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it still has to be voted at town meeting, and the attorneys still have to, close all the loopholes. But it's an article on the warrant that will hopefully help us to plan and create more affordable housing for the demographic that needs it.
Okay. Alrighty, question number 3. The constant upkeep of roads, the delivery of clean water, and the annual maintenance of ponds are often subjects that residents find very frustrating. How can you, as a member of the Select Board, effectively communicate the plans and procedures that are in place to handle these and other infrastructure subjects?
Okay, so roads, water, and ponds. So this year, we are upgrading all the docks and all of the beaches for all 4 of the ponds. Stetson, Furnace, Oldham, and Little Sandy. Water, as I mentioned before, hopefully it will get voted through at town meeting. We're working on an $8 million infrastructure for upgrading, and we're working on a new well right now off of the Pleasant Street, Water Street.
So let me just ask you something. All the problems with colored water that happened over the last couple of years in Pembroke, can you address that?
Yeah, so I did speak with the town manager about that. And he said that it was the method of flushing. So they switched the method of flushing and how they flush out the systems, and they're flushing them more often. And that was why we had the brown water. But he assured me that there hasn't been any brown water issues recently, but I did ask him about that and why we had that. And as far as the roads go, I know for a long time we were only spending $100,000 a year on roads, and now we're spending between $500,000 and $600,000 a year on roads. I'm not sure if they still do it this way, but they used to do one North Street and one South Street every year. A street that's north of town and then a street that's south of town. So, yeah, that's roads. And then as far as communicating these topics to
and communicating
the residents,
updates and letting people know what's going on.
Just communicating overall. We do a terrible job of that right now.
Okay, let's talk about that. What does not Pembroke do well, and how can that be changed?
So I don't believe we communicate with the residents well. So it used to be that you had the Pembroke Mariner, so the older demographic could read the Mariner, and they would know what was going on. And that was like a Bible for them. So when the Pembroke Mariner went away, a lot of them are not on Facebook, and they didn't even know that it was time to vote for the Council on Aging building, or they didn't know it was town election on Saturday, May 18th, because they're not on social media.
Okay.
But if you go on the Town of Plymouth website, they have an awesome website. Plymouth.
Okay.
I think they do a great job. It's easy to navigate, and you can commute with the residents through the website and just have updates, so that as a resident, you should be able to go on the Town of Pembroke website once a week, maybe once a month, and just read what the updates are. Fish fry at the Herring Run, or flushing at Oak Street. The dump will be closed on Saturday for the recycling center, we call it now, just so that residents will be able to have an update. I think if everyone has the internet now, and if they don't, they have a friend at church that has the internet, or they know someone. But
so you think it's really the website which should be the
I think that would be a great
location?
way to communicate. I had a second idea. I don't know if it's going to pass. But my second idea was, so as you pass through the center of town, we always have that big giant highway sign out that will say, you know, hazardous waste day, Saturday, 7 to 3, or what have you. And let's face it, it's ugly. It's ugly looking. So when I worked on the community center project, I said, let's put a conduit out at the street. So when we have a sign, maybe we can get something that will be more of like a bulletin board. And people hemmed and hawed. They said, it's going to be ugly. It's going to look like Las Vegas. You know, and I said, all right, well, at the very least, we need a light if we do a wooden sign. Okay. So there's a conduit out at the street. And one thing I would love to see get done, and I know it has to go through historical, would be to have a little sign like they do in front of Silver Lake Kingston High School.
Yeah.
That just gives the greatest hits, you know, town election on Saturday.
Right.
Or tree lighting Sunday. You know, just so if you pass through town, you can see what you need to know for that week.
And it can be updated electronically.
It can be updated electronically. I think Kingston Fire doesn't have it, but I know I saw a fire department that had one somewhere. And I think that would be another great way to reach out to the residents that maybe are not on social media. And
now, do you think our town manager does a good job talking about what's going on in the town?
He's very busy. And he does. He gives his his bi-monthly
It's actually
updates.
weekly. Weekly.
I mean, we don't have a communications director.
Do you think we need one?
I do. You know, and I think we might be able to get maybe some kids from the high school involved to either they can get their community service hours to revamp the website or give us ideas on the website. But a communications director would be huge. I mean, it's really not Bill's job to inform the public of every single thing that's going on.
Right.
He's busy running the town like a business.
Right. Okay. That sounds reasonable. This is kind of a philosophical question.
Sure.
There are often two very different sides to a subject or subject matter. And these things can come before the select board. How do you navigate your personal opinions in regard to complex issues? And can you give any examples?
So always what's in the best interest of the town. You have to remove yourself from the situation and your personal issues and your personal opinions and always vote in what's in the best interest of the town.
And is that based on popular beliefs? Is it based on what it's going to cost the town? I mean, what is that based on? Because your idea of what might be best for the town might be very different from somebody else's idea of what's best for the town. So what are the criteria?
You have to take everything that's, look, I'm not afraid of controversy. So you can't always choose the easy path. Sometimes you have to stand up and say, that's not right, we shouldn't be doing that. So I guess I would say it's based on a moral compass, what we can and can't afford. And by being out in the community and talking to people about whatever the topic is, whether or not they want it. And just to give you an example, I don't know if this is what made you think of it, but with the whole DEI issue, it was brought up at town meeting. Everyone was there to vote on it. It was a public forum. It was a citizen's petition. And we, the voters, we, the taxpayers, voted against having a government-run DEI program. None of us are against DEI, the philosophy of it, right? We just didn't want a government committee. We wanted it to stay a private committee. We voted on that. We voted no. And then the selectmen went back, although it was a citizen's petition, so it's not legally binding.
Right.
But we voted on it as residents. The select board at the time went back, disregarded the citizens' vote, and created a government DEI committee. That's completely out of touch with what the residents want. We didn't vote for that.
Okay.
We voted no. So they later reversed it. But so I just think being in the community, speaking to residents and being involved, and listening to what the residents want, and then you become the citizens' voice.
Right. Do you think that Pembroke does a good job with civility when it comes to things that people might not agree on?
Give me an example. What is
Just the Board of Selectmen, if something comes before the Select Board and 2 or 3 members feel one way and 2 or 3 members feel another way, is their behavior something you want your kids to look at and say, this is good behavior?
Now, yes. Okay. In prior years, no. Okay. But now, yes. I think now that Steve and Rich are on there, yeah.
Okay. I have actually time for an additional question for you.
Oh, great.
So if you were to give Pembroke a report card, and what would be the things that you give it an A, and what are the things that really need to be worked on?
So the A would be the department heads. I mean, they all do a phenomenal job, and they put their heart and soul into it, and a lot of them have had to cut their budget, and they're still getting by. Mm-hmm. You know, some of them on a shoestring. So the A+ would go to the department heads, and I think the F would go to the job that we do on the roads. I mean, some of the roads are just deplorable.
And I think anybody in the DPW or even the manager's office would say,
"Oh, it's not a reflection on them. It's the funding that they receive.
It's the funding, and it's the area of the country we live in, where you have 90-degree days, you have minus 10-degree days, and snow and ice and frost heaves.
It's a thankless job for the DPW, and God bless them. And it's not any fault of theirs that we don't have the money to get all these roads done, but we're starting to catch up. Now that we're spending more funding on it, and
now, do you give Pembroke an A for voting for the new community center and voting for the new combined emergency management center?
Yes, the voters voted for it. The new community center, the grand opening is going to be June 15th, and I was on that committee for 7 years. I worked long and hard on that, so I'm very proud of that project. Mm-hmm. And the new public safety building, we need it. I mean, the police have their evidence room up in the attic. The firefighters, I mean, that building is from the 70s when we didn't even have that many paramedics. I mean, in the 70s, the police would throw you in the back of the station wagon and rush you to the hospital. And now it's more ambulance runs.
Right.
The fire department does 3,700 runs a year, and 73% of them are ambulance.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to let you have 2 minutes to kind of talk to the people and tell them why you should be the select board candidate that they vote for.
Hi, thank you for having me here today. So I just wanted to tell the folks at home a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Pembroke, a lifelong resident. I went to Pembroke High, back then it was Silver Lake. My husband and I bought our house in '91, raised our 2 kids here, and our kids are actually 4th generation residents. So I've been around a long time, and I'm passionate about the town, but passion is not the only quality that I bring to the table. I have experience. I'm a former Pembroke Selectman, a former Housing Authority Commissioner. I was on the Community Center Committee for 7 years, and I've been on numerous committees, boards, and volunteer organizations. In fact, my community involvement dates back to my childhood. And I also bring a skill set. I have both a legal and a business background. I'm a hardworking, independent businesswoman. My colleagues call me a polite pit bull. I take that as a compliment. I stand up for what I believe in. I'm not afraid of controversy. I ask questions, I demand answers, and I get stuff done. So if those are the qualities you're looking for in a candidate, then I'm the one for you, and please vote on May 18th.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. We really have enjoyed having you here today. We wish you the best during this campaign season and in the election. Please make your choices heard by voting on May 18th, on or before May 18th, for the Pembroke Town elections. Thank you and good day.